Let the phone on till you arrive home.
Oh, no. We have many secrets.
Yes.
Ага. У нас много секретов.
Mm-mm.
Девочки, no. I can't do this.
You should continue with me till I finish the food.
By the way, you will be busy. Starting. Hold on.
Lecture is not started. You can listen when the lecture will start. Till that you continue.
Okay, darling. My friend was tired. Now I must leave you. Have a good evening.
Near. Continue.
Да. I kiss you, I hug you, and I say you goodbye.
5 минут, пожалуйста. 5 минут, пожалуйста.
Bye-bye, darling.
5 минут.
I
5 минут, пожалуйста.
могу 5 минут. Дорога. Видишь, дорога. И ты теперь подходи. Вот, just now, goodbye. Are you call me later?
Huh?
Or you may call me.
I don't know. My lesson. Kan gitu kebetulan red. I wish teach your self-confidence. Wish to teach you
Dear participants of our school, let's resume the webinar and proceed to the next presentation. Can you hear me?
Hello and welcome, my friends. We are beginning IT law course on our summer school. My name is Vladislav Volkov. I represent.
Hello, can you hear me?
And today we'll discuss a few
Yes.
topics
Can hear you.
concerning IT law. It's about sovereignty. It's about space and time in modern conditions. I think that when we start, questions, comments, or concerns, you are welcome. Please, you may turn on your cameras.
Can you hear me?
Do you hear me? That's okay. Yeah, I hope so. So we'll begin with the question about state sovereignty in the field of information technology. We live in a perfect world. A feature of life in our knowledge society is the transformation of classical notions of space and time. According to Castells, in the new system of geographical coordinates, they lose their geographical significance and are integrated into fictional networks or physical colleges. I'm very sorry, but I have to
presentation is the activities of
your microphone. Thank you. Thank you very much. And space is also gradually being deprived of its legal significance. This raises questions about possibility of further exploitation of the concept of territorial sovereignty. It's the basis of contemporary international legal order. Yes, thank you. For example, Article 4, Paragraph 1 of Constitution of the Russian Federation. The sovereignty of Russian Federation extends over its entire territory. I think that you may see the same lines in Constitution or same act of country you live in, and you make sure this. The legal expression of state sovereignty should be the supremacy of national legal acts throughout the territory of the state. But constitutions or other constitutional acts doesn't give us value orientations for life in new reality, where objects are not kept in space, but give birth to their own spaces. Certainly, you have noted that your consumption of media exceeds 24 hours a day. My students, for example, sometimes listen to my lectures, read something in their smartphones, talking to each other simultaneously. I believe that you behave the same in your lectures. I mean, not online lectures, but classical lectures at the university. Thus, you are simultaneously at least in 3 dimensions, in 3 informational spaces. And each of these spaces requires its own legal regulation. Technology doesn't simply remove boundaries, extend territories, political and social. The human being in his activities fills with symbols all the areas of reality that matter to him, actually existing in the artificial environment. But constitutional values based on spatial coordinates are also losing their exclusivity and have to coexist with new technological phenomena. The need for position phenomena, territorial sovereignty, and the exterritoriality of the modern decentralized technologies has led to the emergence of hybrid legal constructs. From Russian perspective, for example, in Russia, the category virtual territory introduced when trying to regulate the internal market and currently used by executive authorities. The use of the category virtual territory contributes to solving some private problems, some very specific problems of law enforcement. However, practice shows only limited effectiveness of this concept. Hello, Lucia. Being in fact a legal fiction, this concept, virtual territory, is unable to ensure the implementation of principle of supremacy of Russian law over the informational infrastructure, the elements of which are distributed in different jurisdictions and have a de facto global character. For example, I here in Russia, in Samara, I'm have a lecture. Where you are? Please, if you have a possibility, please check your location, and you may write something in chat, because we have to coexist in this international order, and I have to know. I want to compare your legal orders with my legal order, and it will be useful for other our other research and for outcome of our research. A little.
I'm
China.
from Peru.
Hello, China.
I'm from Peru.
Okay. Great. You see, all over the world we are connected, and we have some in common, but our legal orders are different. And I think that there is a virtual territory in country where you live, and there is some concept of a virtual territory in Russia. And we may compare these understandings and find out something more. You see, territorial sovereignty and the exterritoriality of modern decentralized technologies leads to virtual territory as a conception. But we have some criteria for recognizing sites, for example, as residing in virtual territory of Russia. Registration in domain zone. We have 3 domain zones in Russia: RU, SU, and Cyrillic zone RF. Version of site in Russian, and the additional criteria is national currency transactions. First and second criteria is most important. If we have a registration in our domain zone, or we have version of site in Russian, site resides in our virtual territory of Russia. But if you open Facebook, for example, you'll see that Facebook.com is not in Russian territory. It's residing in commercial domain zone. It's international. But we have Facebook translated in Russian, so Russian authorities sees Facebook as residing in our virtual territory, so they may impose some sanctions on Facebook if it behave not very good from their point of view. But the conception of virtual territory is unable to ensure the implementation of principle, the supremacy of Russian law over the informational infrastructure, because informational infrastructure is distributed all over the world. Today we are speaking through BBB, you know, it's Green Light Service, but Green Light Service is an open source program platform that is not Russian by its origin. And I think that our servers are distributed all over the world in data centers, and each data center has its own location. It's maybe Singapore, it is maybe Amsterdam, maybe some cities in the United States. So the whole world is distributed, and virtual territory is virtual. It is not, there is no boundaries, such boundaries that we have in classical concept of territory. We have an unsuccessful attempt to localize the personal data of Russian citizens in the Russian Federation under our Federal Act of 2014. To date, the largest foreign personal data operators have not localized the processing of Russian data on Russian territory, but simultaneously have not been subject to the restrictions provided by our law. Russian government unable to do this, to persuade operators to come to Russian territory and to bring the data, personal data of Russian citizens to our territory. And Russian government by now has no power to impose sanctions over Facebook or Twitter. These companies haven't brought data to our territory. An equally serious warning about the ineffectiveness of the Russian state information policy turned out to be a failure to enforce the decision ordering the restriction of access to Telegram service. I think that you have heard about Telegram, about its model, about its model of super secret service, but unsuccessful attempts to exercise these rights of a Russia Federation in information society, in a knowledge society, call into question the existence of legal possibilities and political will for the full realization of the principle of the primacy of national law in relations involving global information exchange. If you have some examples, if you have any example of such ineffectiveness in your country, you may present it and we'll discuss it. I think it will be interesting. Moreover, the virtual territory is a misinformation factor. The concept of virtual territory, based on the vision of the New Times, is the term of the New Times of a treaty that took place in 17th century. It's now more dangerous than useful, I think. When combined with our aspects of technological reality, such as the personal recommendation system, it can mislead citizens. On December 4th, 2009, a similarly obscure entry, individualized search for everyone, appeared in Google corporate blog, which actually turned to be a manifestation of the new information revolution. From that day on, the world's largest search engine, Google, which for many people has become synonymous of modern internet, started to use 57 individual parameters of user behavior, ranging from the geographical location and browser type to characterize the identity of a particular user, to offer them the most relevant results, that user wanted to see. And every person has their own Google. I know, you know that if you search something on Google, you will get your own results. They will differ from my results, and it will be, sometimes it is embarrassing, but most times it's very useful. You get information you want to see, but this information is not real information. It's not information about reality, but it is information about your interest. Soon the American corporation Google was followed by regional players in the search engine market. In Russia, there is Yandex. Yandex is the most significant player in our Russian search engine market. And almost entire world turned to be individualized. The other side of individualization is alienation. The fragmentation of internet began. The search result for different people became quite different, and hence the picture of world based on them differed. Abroad Russia, the phenomenon became the subject of scientific analysis, and a special term for it appeared. It's a filter bubble. Everyone now live in filter bubble. It's in my filter bubble, your filter bubble, and the differentiation of information flows affects not only preferences of individuals, but also the political orientation of entire countries and peoples. As of October 2015, there are at least 10 known cases where Google Maps have significantly different data on state boundaries. Differences in status of Crimea in Russia and in Ukraine. In Russian and Ukrainian versions of Yandex can be special interest to my audience, I think. You see the Yandex Maps in Ukraine. Yandex Maps is a map service. It's a commercial enterprise, and they have to satisfy their customers in Ukraine and in Russia. But when you see Yandex Maps in Ukraine, you'll see the Crimean border. There is no border between Ukraine and Crimea, and you'll see this area. It's Georgia. It's Sukhumi and Tskhin Valley. It's Yandex Maps in Ukraine, and Yandex Maps in Russia is quite different. You'll see a border. There is a green border. It's maybe not very emphasized, but it's present. There is border between Ukraine and Crimea, and it's Abkhazia, and it's South Ossetia. It's not Georgia. It is different countries. They are different countries. So,
is it already recognized as a country, Ossetia?
Sorry, the sound is not very good.
I asked if it's already recognized as a country, South Ossetia.
South Ossetia is recognized as a country by Russian Federation.
Oh,
By
okay, I understand.
By Russian Federation and its closest allies. But I think that the most countries, the most powerful countries in the world, excluding Russia, didn't recognize
Okay.
Ossetia as well as Abkhazia and
Okay.
Russia.
Okay.
Russia recognized, but the whole other world, except a few countries, maybe DNR. You know, there are two new countries near Russia. It's Luganskaya, Lugansk People Republic, and Donetsk People Republic.
Okay.
Yes, the same case with them. Yes, is there any clear distinctive difference between Yandex and Google Map with the Russian territories? Aum asks. In Google Map, yes, there is distinction because Google shows for whole world except Russia that it is disputed territories. These territories are disputed, so they are gray. You may check it in your mobile device. So may check. So I may check too. You know, Crimea is Russian in Russian Google, and in Google outside Russia, Google search outside Russia, I think it is disputed territory. Check it out. But Yandex is a major Russian search engine, and it is interesting in how Yandex sees this situation, because Google is all over the world. Google is the most. I think that Google has very big, I think that Google may allow something difference, some different points of view, because there is Google in Russia, there is Google in Europe, in North America, and Yandex is a Russian service, and it is. I think that it is very binded with our government. So the position of Yandex is interesting for me, and I think for you. Yandex described the position on Crimea in the corporate blog as follows: after the referendum in Crimea, the president of Russia signed an international treaty on the annexation of Crimea and Sevastopol to Russia. The Constitutional Court of Ukraine declared the Crimean referendum to be contrary to the Constitution of Ukraine. We work for our users from different countries and reflect for them the reality that surrounds them. Therefore, we start to make changes in the work of our services. But inside the company, the changes were explained to more frankly. In the internal blog, accessible to employers, there was a recording that clarified the official position of the company. It mentioned plans to show Crimea for different countries in different ways. The decision was made to keep the business outside Russia. In 2015, there was Yandex Ukraine. Now there is no Yandex Ukraine, it is banned. The work of Yandex in Ukraine is banned by now. Having divided two realities, Russian and Ukraine reality, Yandex first satisfied the interest of Russian and Ukrainian states. Then he also satisfied himself by retaining the user base in Russia and in Ukraine, and loyalty of government regulators. But users paid for it. And they are offered the picture they wanted to see, not the real story. In the reality, everyone loses. Users receive distorted information. Internet companies bear the cost of creating multiple databases, parallel information systems. States increasingly isolate themselves from each other. From legal point of view, the deliberate promotion of information separatism appears to be a return to the early part of last century, where information rights have not been recognized and established at the interstate level. In the middle of the past century, it was announced in United Europe that state borders should not longer be an obstacle to a dissemination of information. In 1966, a similar norm appeared at the global level in the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Under Article 10, in the European Convention on Human Rights, everyone has the right to freedom of expression. The right shall include freedom to hold opinions and to receive and impart information and ideas without interference by public authority and regardless of frontiers. The Convention specially emphasized the cross-border nature of informational rights. In accordance with the nature of information exchange and the substantive characteristics of information, we believe that in 21st century, nobody should deny the right of 62 million of Yandex users in Russia to know that the outcome of referendum of the status of Crimea is not recognized by anyone other than Russia and its closest allies. Likewise, it's unacceptable to create a false perception of the possibility of unimpeded movement into the territory of the Autonomous Republic of Crimea among the Ukrainian audience of Yandex. Otherwise, it will be a new Cold War, the main clashes of which would take place in the information sphere. It's the case of Yandex and its virtual territory of Russia and Ukraine. But states are the initiators of the information confrontation, and a solution to a problem cannot be expected in terms of national legislation. The practice of recent years has shown that national law was rather aimed to isolate a country, however pointless that might be in the context of a fundamentally cross-border internet. National legislation was aimed primarily at protecting and promoting the interests of political elite. And if isolation was the only way of life for them, the law would ensure that state was kept confidential and isolated. At the same time, the right of access to information is now a personal right, unrelated to a person belonging to a particular state, regardless of frontiers. If it depends on technology companies, they must be protected from arbitrary interference by state authorities in order to distort public information. Such protection could be provided at international level with the international legal framework. It should be sufficient to exclude the influence of national policy considerations on the content of information provided by search engines and social networks. I think that it is not a matter of promoting only a valid point of view endorsed by all members of the international community without exception. I think it is not possible. But already the access to information can be organized to provide simultaneous access to multiple approaches to a single problem. In 2015, we conducted a research. We conducted a research, and even for us, I'm an IT person, so I'm familiar with technologies, and I tried to connect the political reality with technologies and tried to make some kind of peaceful treaty between them. I will show you the results. This is my paper on the problem of Crimea, of Russia and Ukraine. So the solution is very simple. You may take two images of maps, of Yandex maps, for example, and make a slider and allow user to choose one side or another. You'll see the Crimea in this version is pink, so it's Russian, and in this version Crimea is green, so it's Ukrainian, as well as Georgia is united in Ukrainian version, and Georgia is separated. There is Sukhum and there is Tskhinval as capitals of Abkhazia and South Ossetia. I think there are many ways in which technology companies can make a solution, but there is maybe a political will, maybe it's market considerations, the business considerations that doesn't allow them to do so. But it's simple. Anyone who familiar with technology, with not very deep technology, may do something. Let's return to our presentation. So You see that differences in national approaches to territorial disputes can be presented very clearly, so that citizens can compare them and obtain objective information regardless of the search for individualization or ideology prevailing in the country they live in. I think that it's very simple. I think that anyone can understand this and can use such services. Why do not place a button that will be embedded into the map, and anyone who wants to see the in our example Ukrainian or Russian point of view will press it and will see on the same map. It will be a simple and pretty clever, I think, approach. The difficulties in limiting the flow of information on their territory led modern states to the other extreme, to transcend the ideology of territorial sovereignty and apply national legal mechanisms beyond national borders. It's a phenomena of too long hand of it's too long hand of the national law. For example, the French Commission, French regulator, obliges Google to exclude certain references and the results of the search not only on French territory, according with the right to be forgotten, but throughout the world. The translation of national legal norms into the global information space, I think that is objectable, as they are binding not only nationals of the state, but also the foreigners, and foreigners subject to their national legal system. The implementation of the requirements of the French regulator, as demonstrated, for example, in Russia, will result in the restriction of their constitutional rights to seek and to obtain information by a decision of foreign authority made in foreign jurisdiction on the basis of foreign legal norms. This situation is damaging to the concept of territorial sovereignty as the inability of state to control the information flows described above. Is there any legislation similar to the right to be forgotten in the country you live in? No? In Russia, we have the same act that allows a person who thinks that the search results are not relevant to him, or maybe they are outdated, to extract these search results from Google, from Yandex, and from other search engines. Search engines. And this is not only academic documents. This it is maybe absolutely anything. It's information about crimes, maybe. So, person who conducted a crime, who was found guilty some time ago, for example, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, may claim to Google and to Yandex and to extract information about his misdemeanor, about his crime from the results, from search engine results. And you know, in modern internet, if there is nothing in Google, if there is nothing in moreover, if there is nothing on the first page, of search results, this information doesn't exist. There is no such information. You won't find it. So the right to be forgotten is it's a very powerful measure. It's a very powerful law, and in Russia there were disputes about this right, but now it is in the federal act, and we have such rights in Russia. I think that in Germany, I think that obviously in France there is such right to be forgotten, and when it was introduced in France, it was 5 years ago, I think. The results regarding yes, in the European Union, it's a pretty big deal. Yes, and in Russia, it's a big deal too. If the search results are deleted, you won't find this information in any way. So it is a very powerful tool. It's a very powerful measure to limit the information, to ban information. And when French regulator imposes such sanctions on Google, these sanctions will take effect all over the world, not only in France, because Google is a global company. It has global search results, and this is called the invisible hand of national law. It's a too long hand of national law. It's another problem. You see, today we speak about problems and a little about solutions, because there is not very there is no solution sometimes. You know, we have a rapidly changing world, and today problems maybe they have no solutions by now. It will be in the future, but in the future will be another problems, such as a fragmentation of the information society, the growing imbalance between declared constitutional values and the real power of states to implement them in the long term could have negative consequences, not only for the ideology of state sovereignty, but also for the internet infrastructure. You know, my friend, he's a big IT person. He is a famous Russian programmer, and one of the researchers at Yandex. He told me that internet won't be such globalized. The highest point of globalization has passed, and it won't be such a united world anymore. I think that he's right. I think that the pandemic situation that we have proved, and this proved these theories, and I think that we have to prepare to fragmentation. Fragmentation is the result of the policy of fencing the virtual territory of the states, and it is likely to be internet to be fragmented and international segments. I think that we'll see appearance of Russian, Chinese, European, North American, and other subnets, which means the end of internet as we know it in its modern meaning. The regionalization of global network will lead to a less competitive world informational technology market and deprivation of quality of informational services available to citizens in their national subnets. There is an interesting example. The negative experience of Germany in regulation Google News has become well known, as a result of which Google News has temporarily suspended interaction with German news agencies and publishers. This has the effect of introducing a rule requiring news aggregators to pay a fee for the use of text and image fragments. Alex Springer, Alex Springer is a major German publishing house, tried not to cooperate with Google News, and Alex Springer ended up in 2 weeks. They gave up. Alex Springer could not maintain the economic efficiency of its resources, of its sites, its news outlets, and its periodicals without traffic from Google sites. So it was a try. It was a German experience in fencing German borders, but Google jumped over those borders, and Alex Springer, the major publishing house in the world, I think, they could not live without Google traffic. As we see, the almost unlimited flow of information across state borders leads to the influence of supranational practice on the national legal order and contains the potential for its disruption. Although, contrary to the predictions of Johnson and Post are well-known scientists, the internet hasn't become completely free of legal regulation. The development of an information society leads to the need to adapt the legal system of different countries to the institution that will be global. The way in which the relations of information society are governed should be determined not by constitutional values, not by constitutions or other acts of a particular country, of a sovereign state, but by international legal mechanism. And I think that this legal mechanism must take into consideration the values of global information technology companies. For example, Google, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Tencent from China, maybe Ali Group from China, and other global market organizations, and Yandex, of course, from Russia. We covered a few topics, and if you have questions, concerns, or comments, you are welcome. Next, we'll talk about time asynchronity, about time dimension of law regulation, and if you have some questions, you're welcome. There is no question, and let's go to time. The perception of time, as well as a space, is changing. In network communities, time is localized within them and is perceived as a process duration rather than a natural cycle. In the previous example, I talked about the media consumption. Media consumption in the modern world is over 24 hours a day. And in any dimension, in any act of consumption, we have to be protected by law. But the application of a law over time determines the limits of legal order in any country. Temporal characteristics are essential for the realization of constitutional values or values of legal order, of legal events or legal actions. The chronology defines the procedural basis of many political and legal institutions, but in the information society, its relationship to the technological reality is less and less evident. The fate of nationalist institutions, of constitutional institutions with information content may give us an idea about the transformation of other value orientations in the near future. Freedom of thought, freedom of speech, freedom of mass media, a right to seek, to receive and transmit, produce information. These values are realized in some chronology. But today, information society, in information technology, thanks to its vastly expanded capacity for storing and transmitting information, large amounts of information, is making it possible to increase the freedom of consumption of mass informational products. Let's imagine broadcast television. Broadcast television is linked to some chronology. You have a program, you have some channels according to the program, and there are some media consumed at a time, at some time. Printed media is a relatively low degree, has a relatively low degree of reproducibility too. But internet projects, for example, video content services and for example, podcasts, they're not constrained. They have a high degree of reproducibility. They may be stored, they may be consumed in the way that consumer wants. And the most backwards by now are regulations in public law sphere. The regulations of private legal relations has to respond to the needs of informational market. If Facebook give us not very good information product, maybe imagine that Facebook will lost half of your friends. You go somewhere, I think. You go to Instagram, you'll go to, in Russia there is Contractions, social network, or other. But in public sphere, you have nowhere to go. The regulations of public legal sphere largely based on principles of subordination and their values of past centuries. Institutions are rapidly becoming ineffective. For example, the traditional notions of timing underlie the rules of for determining the electoral period in elections. For example, there is Article 49 of the Federal Act of 20th of June 2002. And this article establishes that pre-election campaigning on the channels of TV, on radio, in periodicals and online publications begins 28 days before polling day and finishes at midnight local time on the day prior to voting day. Campaigning on the day of voting and the day preceding it are prohibited. It's a day of silence. I think that the same day, the same measures are well known in countries you live in Great Britain. I think the day of silence is the day of polling. It's not day prior to the voting day. But in Russia, it is 2 days. It's voting day and the day before voting day. But video hosting and social media, they do not have legal status of broadcasting organizations, periodical newspapers and webcasts, but have a comparable and in some cases the superior influence on the audience. Staying in this gray zone, they're not fully covered by legal regulation. And they are allowed to deliver messages to voters at any time to an unlimited audience. The mechanism for the delivery of messages by video hosting is such that the distribution of campaign materials, for example, in the day of voting or the day prior to the day of voting, to the day of silence, can be formally qualified as an offense. The materials can be placed within the campaign period, but as a result of the work of automatic personalization algorithms, may be offered to the user after the end of legal campaign period, in the day of silence, or in the day of when voting take place. There is no solution to this problem. There is a problem arising from the application of legal norms of chronology to the regulation of technologies specific to an information, to the knowledge society. The solution lies in the normative acceptance of the asymmetric nature of electoral process and information flows, which should in the long run lead to the elimination of attempts to limit the dissemination of information binded to certain electoral events. I think the day of silence and the prohibition of dissemination information in the voting day, they lose reasonable grounds. I think that in the future we'll be allowed to talk about candidates, about parties, about elections at any day we like, and at the polling day, at the polling station maybe even, or the day prior to the polling day. I think that the new technology will bring us to this future. I think that the restriction of campaigning on television and radio channels and other mass media doesn't achieve its purpose. If there are YouTube, you may place a video on YouTube a month before the election day, and it will appear in your screen, at your screen, on the polling day. There is no restriction to this. There is no possibility by now. There's no legal possibility to prohibit YouTube to do this, because YouTube in Russian legal reality is nothing. There is no YouTube in Russian legal reality. It's American service that is not in the scope of Russian legislators. They want to constrain it somehow, but they cannot do this. They may prohibit YouTube, but there is VPN, and the practice of banning services in any country, I think, will lead citizens to get acquainted with VPN and to use VPNs, not to sit and to cry, what is with my YouTube, where is my YouTube, and so on. In Russia, when Telegram was banned, the Telegram became the most popular social network.
I also saw that in Russia we have LinkedIn banned. You know
Yes,
LinkedIn?
Yes.
Yeah. Why is that?
Yes, we have LinkedIn banned because LinkedIn is too little. LinkedIn is not very popular in Russia. And LinkedIn is, it was an example. It was an example of what Russian government may do with a service that is not not recognizes the Russian legal order. In Russia we have norms. We have a federal act that requires international services to store the personal data of Russian citizens within Russia territory.
Mm-hmm.
And LinkedIn didn't moved personal data, so it was banned. But if we want to use LinkedIn, we use LinkedIn. We have a VPN. It's not a problem. We have our vice rector, for example. We have our rector, our head of university in LinkedIn, and there is no problem. I think that in your country there are some restrictions too.
Not actually. We don't have anything banned. Do we, Olga? Oh, she cannot talk because she chose the other option. No puedes hablar. Never mind. But we don't have any restrictions actually of that kind. Anyway, every site on the internet is allowed to us, except if that country doesn't want us.
Yes, maybe it is so. I haven't tried, but I think that there may be some troubles with Chinese resources if you want to use it.
Yeah, probably
Maybe.
because of them.
We have LinkedIn.
Yeah, he was asking. Él estaba preguntando si tenemos algún problema con entrar a cualquier otro sitio, algún tipo de restricción. Yo creo que no, hasta donde no sé. Hasta donde sé, no.
We don't have, but I think when we sign that type of contract, anyone listen really. When you say I agree with the terms, no one listen what are you agreeing with. So that companies manage some kind of information. If you see the case of Snowden, you can notice that Facebook was really I don't want to accuse anyone, but use that information and has advances about the information of Facebook, of a lot of people that for the elections, and that was a risk that all the people have when you belong to Facebook or to any social
Any community that has
yeah.
those information. Yes.
They have your photos, they know what are you doing, they know all your information. Then they if you want to publish what are you eating, or if you go to, I don't know, a trip, maybe Latin America, that thing help that people go inside your house because they know that you're not there, because the Facebook help people to know what are you doing. I'm so sorry.
Yes, there is in chat. There's a voice from China, I think. I heard that TikTok was banned in several countries. Yes, yes, TikTok was banned in India.
Why?
No, because China and India are not very good friends by now.
No.
They
I
have
never
a
thought TikTok was Chinese. I didn't know that.
you know, TikTok has a very interesting history. TikTok is a service that previously was called Musical.ly.
Okay.
And it was aimed
I know
at
that one. I didn't know they were the same.
was aimed on American market. But then, and I don't think that it was a Chinese resource, but Musical.ly failed, and it was sold to Chinese investors.
Oh.
And it became a Chinese resource. But TikTok in China and TikTok in the Europe, TikTok in the United States is a different services. They have different features.
One question. For example, I think, I don't know if it's right, my question. I noticed that when I use Netflix, for example, the service in Netflix, I have some films that maybe in Sweden or in the United States or maybe in, I don't know, in Finland, they don't have the same menu. I don't know how to say. My English is
yes.
very bad.
Yes, they are localized. They localized
Yeah.
to a local audience. Yes, yes, it's obvious. And in Russia, there is Netflix. I use Netflix to see TV serials. I think.
Yeah,
that,
good. Me too.
uh,
There's a
yes,
good series
You
in
probably have better TV shows than we do because we are forced to watch all the Latino stuff that we don't like.
Yeah. I agree. There's so much
So
things like
for us that we can care about.
Colombian things or narcos. I really like some ones, but I don't really like the other ones. And and people from Sweden tell me, oh, you have to search that, and I say they don't appear here. I don't know.
you know, the choice is hard thing. The choice itself is a very uncomfortable situation for a person, because when you choose something, you have to deny one possibility. There are two outcomes of the choice, and you have to take one. Yes, and the second one vanished. No, it is not here anymore. This is because the TV, that classical TV with program, is very popular even now. You don't have to choose. You see, you came home, you turned off your TV, and you watch your TV until you turned it off. But when you see YouTube, when you look at YouTube, when you look some movie, you have to choose, and it's due to our neurology, our psychology. It's not very comfortable.
No.
That's why classical TV still lives. And when I have to turn on TV and search something on YouTube, it takes some time and it takes some energy. There is a voice from India. It's not real reason that TikTok is banned because of bad relations between India and China. Several police and legal complaint has already lodged against TikTok with Pakistan. One of them in a reason TikTok became a very good platform for porn and illegal and unsocial and acceptable videos. It's a hand of Pakistan here.
Ridiculous thing.
Some vulgar video can be seen. I think that TikTok is created to show this kind of videos. No, I think it's more dangerous than Instagram.
And sometimes you see in, for example, I noticed that there's movies that inside, for example, Spain, no one saw it, no one knows about, and they don't have any successful. But when you put it inside the Netflix, all people love that. But before of that, they don't have any successful in the same country, you know. But I really like the inclusion that have with the Turkish films, for example, The Protector, The Gift, and things that make Turkey, for example, a special country and attractive country, that Netflix as a platform give some popularity, some not a Hollywood thing, but a popularity. I don't know, my English is very bad.
This is called Big in Japan.
Yes.
Big in Japan. When band is not popular in Europe, maybe in North America, but in Japan it has a great popularity. It's big in Japan.
For example.
In Russia, are you allowed to watch these gore sites that I know are, I think they're originally from the United States, but you know, there are some criminals that record themselves and they're killing people. And I wonder if you're also not allowed to go on the sites.
You know, in Russia, we're allowed to see many movies when with murders, with killings, and with another things that maybe we don't want to see. We're allowed to do this, and if we are not allowed to do this, we use VPN.
Okay, that's a good way to solve all your restriction problems, right? Just VPN.
Yes, I think that it's like in China. There is a great China firewall, but there are many VPN services that work in China. It's not a problem. Internet is global and there's no way back, I think. And it's great. Anna, hello Anna, very happy to see you here. If government bans any app service, that we can name such government democratic, don't you think that the next war will be war of its sanctions? We'll lose the access to information, resources, and do on. I see, Anna, that you just connected to our conference because we talked about this, and even in the convention, in the convention of human rights, there are such lines. The exercise of those freedoms, since it carries with duties and responsibilities, may be subject to such formalities, conditions, restrictions, or penalties as are prescribed by law and are necessary in a democratic society, in the interests of national security, territorial integrity, or public safety. So, thank you for your question. But democratic society is not society where anything and everything is allowed. No. Some restrictions may be imposed, but the goals of these instructions they has to be necessary. Goals should be publicly known and publicly declared. It's extra material to consult. Maybe you can share something. Maybe we share something. Yes, maybe. What to share? In Mexico, with the renegotiations on NAFTA, users of platforms will have some more restrictions to access to information, but it's part of a legal commercial agreement. Yes, in Mexico too. And sanctions, I think. Yes. Monica, sanctions. You meant sanctions.
Hey, can I ask a question about freedom expression?
Yes, Harold. Yes, you're welcome.
Hello, Privyet. My name is Haryo and I'm from Indonesia. I want to ask an interesting question. How's your opinion about Russian law that rule the freedom of speech and expression, especially in social media usage? Is there any kind of censorship if, let's say, someone criticizes and posts hoax news toward the ruling government? Because I heard, for example, there is a social protest that happened exactly right now on the city of Khabarovsk, if you know, Russian Far East, and the Russian electronic mass media are somewhat restricted to report what exactly happened to the people. Spasiba, очень приятно.
You are well informed. You are very well informed about our domestic policy. It's good. I plan to tell you about one case when a person was detained and he was subject to criminal procedure and eventually it was jailed for expression of his views about Ukrainian conflict. You know, Ukraine is our big topic for us. You know, there is an article in our criminal code that that doesn't allow us to talk about Crimea as a part of Ukraine, for example. You know, the new technologies and the ideology, they expand the potential limits of people impact on each other, but do not promote equality of opportunity. It's very important thing. According to Clay Shirky, the combination of diversity and free choice always stimulates inequality, and inequality in knowledge society is a very bad thing. As a special case of power law, you know, there is a power law. Deviations from uniform distribution of information demonstrate themselves vividly evoking a number of academic metaphors, such as the Matthew effect. You know, Matthew effect is a line from is a line from New Testament. Anyone who has will be given more and more, and will have more than enough. but anyone who has not will be deprived even of what he has. In academic world, the work of famous scientists is disproportionately more recognized than they lesser known colleagues in terms of scientific potential. Maybe the value of their work is equal, but the famous scientists will be more and more famous, but the not so famous colleague will sadly disappear in obscurity. And in the implementation of this Matthew effect is based on the implementation of Pareto principle and is explained as follows. When a new node appears in a network, the probability of its connection to a new one to any other node already included in the network is proportional to the number of connections that the node has. In other words, nodes with more connections get even more connections. The famous are even more famous. A node with the most connections has the best chance of getting new connections. And the more connections it has, the more attractive it becomes. How much followers do you have in social media? Do anyone very famous? Is very famous? Maybe you have 10,000 followers somewhere on Instagram or in Twitter or on Twitter or on Facebook. No, I do not have two, and I think that we are not very popular, but we have more successful colleagues, and if we conduct some research and get some results, and they get such results with equal impact, I think that their research will be far more renowned than ours. It's a Matthew effect. It's not very fair, but life is unfair itself. It's normal. But the effectiveness of legal policy in the field of network regulations depends on the inclusion of this principle. In particular, the effectiveness of prohibitions and restrictions on the dissemination of information currently implemented without regard to technological patterns and is questionable. For example, we have a case of Alexander Bubeyev, who had been sentenced to jail for public calls to extremist activities and for violating the territorial integrity of Russian Federation. The objective side of his crime was expressed in the repost of article of one of Ukrainian authors, Crimea is Ukraine, as well as the text of an unknown author condemning the east side of Ukrainian conflict. The publicity of these calls was expressed in the distribution to 12 subscribers of Bubeyev, only 12 connections he posted to. I think that the understanding the public danger of this act is not very significant. By institution, the criminal proceedings, the law enforcement authorities have placed in the public spotlight information that would have been very likely never to have reached the scene. At one side, 20 subscribers, but now Google search gives access to 1600 pages where his case is mentioned, with a reference to the article Crimea is Ukraine. These numbers are not comparable to the original 2012 subscribers. I think that enforcement failed to take into account another important pattern of uneven dissemination of information on the web, the Streisand effect. It's expressed that the attempt to restrict the dissemination of certain information from public access only leads to its popularization. What is the best legal contractions against undesirable information? I think that in many cases, the most successful scenario will be not to mention this information. Simply allow information to disseminate. The information comes in waves. The one wave come to us, then they disappear. So you only have to see at these waves, but if you will put a hand in the water, it will be circles. And these circles comes in other waves. I think that the most wise measure to regulate the information dissemination is sometimes not to mention it. I think that in the case of Bubeyev, in the case of dissemination, the extremists activities, the state failed to achieve any of the purposes of criminal punishment. The impact on society has been confined to intimidation, which alone is unlikely to provide a credible rule of law based on vision of social justice. There was an example of horizontal inequality, and there is vertical inequality in the modern world. The uneven distribution of information is evident not only in academia, but in other communities. Aum, I see your comment. I will turn to your comment a little bit later. Even now, it's obvious that the modern social services, Google, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, and on a global scale, Yandex and Vkontakte in Russia, they accumulate significant amounts of personal information, and they control our online life. Whether they were monopolies in the traditional economic sense is a matter of a discussion, but they are social monopolies by now. Full exercise of the constitutional freedoms is now possible only if the services belonging to the listed companies are used. But participation in any major modern social service is based on deeply unbalanced hierarchical relationship, far removed from the constitutional ideals of equality. A feature of the current phase of internet regulation is that the level of personal freedom is low, and state guarantees of human rights are low. As a result, despite the formally voluntary nature of the citizens' participation in the social network, in fact, the economic power of actors in the network is so uneven that one party has no power at all to influence the counterparty, but other party, on the other hand, is able to impose its will. The weakness of one side of contractual relationship is a well-known, well-researched phenomenon. But emergence of information services when audience comparable to the population of the whole country gives the problem a public law character and raises the problem to a new level. In the new reality, market-based self-regulation mechanism can protect the weak majority, but only create a vicious cycle of strengthening social service administrations. In such situations, if regulatory actions are not taken, the strong party dictates its own will. Market-based regulation doesn't work. The danger of monopolization of communication is recognized on global scale, even in the United States of America, even in countries considered to be the guarantors of free communication online. Thanks to the open internet, the American nation has gained huge benefits, including new economic opportunities. Large investments open up new ways of education. Noted the president of the Judiciary Committee of the House of Representatives in the United States Congress. But there is growing evidence that several players have been able to seize control of key arteries of online commerce, content, and communication. An important feature of our times is that technology company taking over public functions. They resemble states. They have population users. They have even currency. You know, there is Facebook Libra. There was Facebook Libra. I hope that Libra is dropped by now. Any social service, any social network has its money equivalent. And now they have powers. The public nature of activities of private information and telecommunication platforms and services, which ensure the full exercise of expression, of constitutional freedom of expression, is also unquestionable. Transfer and dissemination information in the hands of these companies. Participants in the informational market are aware of their public functions, and within the limits of their capabilities, they participate in the adoption of public decisions. Microsoft, for example, they refused to sell to state, to the police, face recognition technologies, because Microsoft believes that there will be unlawful usage of their technologies during the social unrests that are taking place now. You know, today in Seattle, as far as I remember, in Seattle, there were unrests, public unrests. Amazon and Apple refused to sell face recognition technologies to the state authorities. Social services, Twitter, for example, became widely known to restrict officials, beginning with the President of the United States of America, Twitter, they banned a few tweets from the president of the United States, and they have a fact-checking mechanism that pessimized the tweets from president and do not show anymore to the public. I think that such a situation is unimaginable in Russia, for example. But in Russia, there is no Twitter. At the same time,
Why do you not have Twitter?
we have a Twitter in Russia, but it is not our Twitter. It is not Russian Twitter. It's American Twitter. It's a global Twitter. And, Russians are well known for their will to win. Any place, if it is not first place, is not suitable for us. So we want to have our Twitter, we want to have our Google, we want to have our Russian Facebook, and so on. Yes.
But are you not allowed to go on Twitter? Is it like banned? Did you hear me? No?
You want to show Olga?
Yeah.
Olga?
I want to show the Yandex. I don't know if you can see it. Maybe it can be the replace of the. Oh,
It's about school, son. It's something about school. No?
Yeah, I put Yandex. Even I use Yandex for the taxi, for example, in Russia, because
Yandex Taxi. Yes. We have Yandex Taxi.
Because
And
Uber, it doesn't work.
No. We have Uber. We have Uber, but
Yes, you have.
but in Russia, Yandex and Uber is the same. It's one company.
Yeah. Okay, that is the page.
Yandex,
Maybe?
yes.
Okay.
It's our Google. It's our Google.
It's our Google.
The funny thing. That's one funny thing about Yandex. Yandex is not a Russian company. Yandex listed on the New York Stock Exchange, and the headquarters of Yandex is in Netherlands, but 99% persons of Russian users of Yandex users are Russian.
Because the Netherlands is better than the United States, right?
Maybe in China or in Turkey. Yandex is big in Turkey.
Yeah, but a particular thing maybe is not important, but I remember when I want to use Yandex in the taxi, I have to have a cell phone and the number of Russian number, because if I have a number of Peruvian number or Mexican number, they are not going to work.
Yes, they're not working with a number from another country. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, because Yandex is a Russian company. It's a Russian Google.
Yes.
Russia is well known with such companies. There is no European Google. There is American Google in Germany, France, United Kingdom, Switzerland, and in other countries. But in Russia, due to our alphabet, primarily to alphabet and to Russian language, there is local players in search engine markets. because Russian language is not very simple. It's not very easy to learn. It's not very easy to understand. And so Yandex found the niche, found its way to a Russian consumer, Russian citizens with the Russian language. That's the answer.
It's like
Yes.
kind of Baidu in Chinese, right? To get customer on China.
Sorry, Harold. Please repeat your question, because your voice is not very loud.
Okay, so you say that Yandex is more toward Russian customers. So it's like there is a search engine on China called Baidu.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so I think the company of Baidu want to found the customer to more specific to Chinese people, just like Yandex for Russian people, right?
Yes, you're right. Baidu and another Chinese companies, another Chinese social services, they are different. China is a very big country. It's not comparable. Russia and the China market is not comparable. In China, the high-tech company with 200 employees is not a big company. It's one of the many. But in Russia, high-tech company with 100 or 200 employees, it's a very big company. It's I think that China's market is another story. It's another world, and you have and I don't think that but China, there is a Great China firewall, but in Russia there is no Great Russian firewall, and Chinese scenario won't be able. We won't be able to repeat Chinese scenario in Russia, because Russian internet was born in another conditions. It was completely free, free not in terms of market, not in terms of money, but it was free as ideology. And now there are some fencing, there are some restrictions imposed, but we won't come to Chinese scenario. It's impossible. If we turn off our border, our main channels at our borders, it won't be internet in many countries, not only in Russia, in the Ukraine, in the large part of Europe, in the Middle East, and in other countries. I think that partly in China there won't be internet. It will be disconnected from internet if we turn off our major channels of internet on our borders. So there is one problem with the tech companies. Technology companies wasn't created for the public good. They were created for profit. The business model of Google, Twitter, Facebook, and other similar services is to collect and monetize user data, which requires the formation of a loyal and engaged audience, regardless of what exactly attracts users. As a rule, the most attractive is a bright, unverified content, exploiting not the best aspects of life, prepared to attract the most attention, and these features of information systems can easily be used to mislead people, to suppress their will, to incite hostility, and foster an atmosphere of hate. But modern approach to democracy presupposes that decisions are taken by citizens on the basis of reliable facts. However, the current information landscape is more like a patchwork of fragments of virtual reality, randomly forming interpersonal world view for each individual user due to a filter bubble that we discussed earlier. A large proportion of technology companies are aware of the need for self-regulation and eager to counteract negative manifestations. But the development of regulatory framework remains to be seen. And I think that information services, information campaigns should be subject to public scrutiny, which will require significant innovations in both the regulation of specific forms of control and its principles. You know, private companies doesn't fit into democratic categories, but they have to fit because they impose public features. Our freedom of speech depends on what technology companies do. But by now there is no such values in the conduits of technology companies, largest technology companies, such as alterations of power, such citizens' participation in governance. You know, the CEO of Amazon, CEO of Apple, Jeff Bezos and Tim Cook, they are sitting in their chairs for quite a long time. And there is no mechanisms to bring our complaints to them. There is no mechanism for citizens' participation in a governance of such a companies, but these companies, as Harion, please. But these companies, they experiencing in public regulations by now. There is no guarantees of economic rights. You know, if you have an internet project and this internet project banned on search engine, for example, banned in Google, and in Russia banned in Yandex, you don't have such a project because your audience will be zero. You won't be able to attract users to your platform because of your ban in search engine. That's called search engine lock. You know, there is Google DNS. It's a new initiative from Google that will pass all traffic through the DNS, through the domain name services owned by Google. And if Google will be not pleased with your content, you will be out of internet. And the last but not least problem is a priority of private rules over state regulations. You know, company is, for example, Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a great company. It's a very good initiative of Tim Berners-Lee. No. Tim Berners-Lee is an inventor of internet. I think that I forgot the name of the inventor, but it doesn't matter. Wikipedia has its own rules, and if some information complies with these rules, it will be in Wikipedia. In Russia, for example, there are articles in Wikipedia about the cannabis and about and other drugs. It is not allowed according to our criminal code, but Wikipedia has its own rules. And rules of Wikipedia is the rules of state of California. It's not Russian rules. And Russian government is not able to ban Wikipedia because it will be undemocratic step, and I think that it will be a step from the civilization at all, and Russian government is not able to do this by now. So we have private rules of Wikipedia that not that doesn't fit our Russian rules, our Russian government rules, but Wikipedia is not banned. There are many other problems that we may discuss, but I think that today it is enough. If you have questions and I didn't ask this question, I will read it. Please explain whether the Russian federal law prohibits it's or it's the political decision or the president rules to censor unsafe news of China and Russia. There is no information or biased information are only noticeable in the public television within Russia. No. I don't think that. I don't think so. I don't think that only the official point of view is visible in Russian news outlets. No. There is a problem of misinformation, but this problem doesn't. Prevent Russian citizens from acquiring the balanced point of view. No. Can IT law help to regulate autonomous weapons? Yes. There is a huge topic in IT law regarding the autonomous systems and primarily the questions of liability in autonomous systems. I will send you a link to MIT project. MIT is a Massachusetts technological institution. About self-driving cars. It is called the moral machine. Yes, the moral machine. You may take part in the research. It is interesting experience. It is not about weapons. It is about autonomous vehicles, and it's interesting. Yes, one of the big topics is questions of liability for the action of autonomous systems. It's true that Russia is working to create his own platform. Yes, Russia is working to create his platform, as far as I know, but I know, I guess.
You think it can be like a www point something like Bings for China? I don't know, but I think Russia will create some platform too. I think that I'm working in that. I don't know. This is my question.
I think that any country, I think that any state working on these issues, I think that there is no big and there is no country with such a potential that will step aside from this road.
Yeah, and one more question that is not exactly a question. It's only for my personal curiosity, because if you create your own platform, is as a security for the state, because no one is going to spy your own platform. You have the control of your platform, and you know what happened inside. This is also a form to protect your own information, especially secure information of the state, especially information from the state. I know that Russia is a tough language that help a lot, no, for taking care about the information. But if you have your own platform, it's better, no?
Russian is not very hard language to learn, I think.
Well, it's not easy, but it's a working. I love Russia language, but it's hard.
You know that problem with Telegram was caused by refusal of Pavel Durov, who is author of Telegram, to give the keys, the cipher keys, to Russian government.
Oh my
and
God!
It was banned. Telegram was banned for 2 years in Russia for this. And now they negotiated somehow. Now they negotiated, and Telegram is unbanned. It's working in Russia. I think
Viber was
that
another one. No, you remember Viber? There was another like Telegram.
Viber, yes, Viber. We have Viber. Yes. It's a Israel and Belarusian company.
Okay, thank you very much.
My brother works on Viber in Minsk.
Oh, congratulations!
I think that any message service that works in Russia, they interact with the Russian authorities. And now even Telegram by now.
Yes, I think you have to, when you have a platform, you have the control of the information of your people, of what they think, what they are talking about. You can restrict some rules, I don't know, manifestation. Even you can control. I'm not talking about intervention of the state. I'm talking about to control some kind of bad commentaries or panics or things like that. I don't know.
Yes, they may simply turn off internet in a local area. If you don't have internet, you don't have transport for messages. And I know such an examples in Khabarovsk, in Khakassia, in other Russian territories. I think that it is world practice. It's not only Russian practice.
Thank you very much.
It's international practice. Yes. Regarding this one question, 3 minutes remaining. Regarding the rights to be forgotten, it is possible for Google or other search engine companies to exclude certain search results completely. Yes, it depends on search engine. If search engine will decide to erase such results, it will be erased, and the resource will be erased from internet. Thus, because if you are not in the search engine results, you are not present at all. You know, there is a joke that the best place to hide a dead body is a second page of Google search results, because nobody checks the second page. Everybody read the first page and no more. I hope that I answered your question. In Russia, there is a public there is a public company that that pays attention to any act of removal of information from search engines. And the Streisand effect comes into action. So if somebody fills the claim, and if anyone wants to remove information from, for example, Yandex, this action is becomes widely known, and the Streisand effect works, and everybody get to know about this information. So this measure doesn't work as it was constructed in this way. Thank you very much, my friends. I want to thank the organizers of our meeting. It was very interesting to me. It was my first lecture in English. I think that you noticed it, but I hope that we will meet soon. I hope that I will experience another chance of interacting with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Спасибо.
До свидания.